never changes.
If you want to see the fate of democracies, look out the windows.
For over 100 years, we've dedicated ourselves to humanity's survival.
Restoring the greatest country in the world to its former glory. Well, that takes time.
The Vault Dweller, the Chosen One, the Lone Wanderer, the Courier, and the Sole Survivor. "28 years ago, a franchise was born. One that would change gaming forever, filled with characters who showed us that when all hope seems lost, humanity does what it always does best: survive, along with a sobering warning about humanity's self-destructive nature. In a world born from ignorance and mistakes, a world that can never truly go back to what it once was, Fallout was an era-defining game, one of the first experiences to really give you the feeling of choice and consequence in a mature setting that didn't mind dark humor and heavily morally gray storytelling. One could say it is one of, if not the grandfather of the modern RPG genre we've all experienced today. And even here in 2025, the franchise is still alive and well, from the tales of the Mojave Wasteland and the Fallout TV show to the controversy around Fallout 76 and a fan base scorned. This community has been through it all. But as a wise man once said,
"You've experienced the Fallout series in your own way, but want to learn more about its story. Well, to get to the heart of the story, you have to go back to the beginning."
Remember this intro? Fallout 1 was something special. Released in 1997, back when Windows 95 was king and a 1 gigabit hard drive meant you were living in the future, Fallout came at a time when the RPG genre wasn't exactly popular. Most games were still focused on fast-paced action or high-score arcades. Deep storytelling and real choices just wasn't the norm yet. But then came Fallout. Developed by Black Isle Studios, a division of Interplay Entertainment, Fallout wasn't just another game, it was a statement. It showed the world that there's something even more powerful than action: immersion. The idea that you, the player, could make choices that truly mattered in a world reacted to your decisions. That was practically unheard of. And Fallout didn't just hand you a simple good versus evil story. It asked something bigger. What if the enemy is whoever you decided it was? And this was all before the actual gameplay even started. But Fallout introduced a system called Special. Strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck, all shown with the infamous Vault Boy. These weren't just throwaway stats you dumped points into. Every single one of these actually mattered, and it drastically changed how the game played out, even though it was a turn-based game from the beginning. Take intelligence as an example. A character with 1 intelligence wouldn't just be bad at hacking, they'd literally speak in grunts.
"Have you found the chip? Oh, that's great. Can I have the chip, please?" "No, not that. I want the computer chip." "No, the chip. Just give me the chip."
NPCs would treat you like you were mentally impaired. Some would pity you, others would just outright ignore you completely. Even quest options would change, offering dumbed-down versions of outcomes or locking you out of them completely. And that's just one statistic. Fallout gave players something rare for the time. That was real choice. The game did well enough that a second game would be made, Fallout 2, just a year later in 1998. And Fallout 2 was more of the same. Same engine, same top-down view, same turn-based combat, but it built on what made Fallout special the first time around. More weapons, more armor, new factions, and a bigger world with a longer story that felt like a natural continuation of the first game. It wasn't just a reboot or a side story. It was a true second chapter. This time around, you could join factions like the New Reno Mob families or the Slavers Guild. You could get married. You could even become an actor or solve missions in completely different ways. Fallout 1 and 2, they weren't just games. They were the foundation. They weren't flashy shooters or cinematic roller coasters. They were brutally honest, insanely dark, and completely driven by you. Every choice you made, every stat you picked had weight. And while Fallout 2 built on everything that made the first game special and what the first game started on, it still felt like a continuation. It wasn't a reinvention. What was really cool was that for those that played Fallout 2 and Fallout 1, the canonical ending for Fallout 1 can actually be found, as it's written from the Vault Dweller's perspective on his adventures during the game. After saving Vault 13 from both the broken watership situation and the rise of the super mutant army, the Vault Dweller returned home a hero, but was betrayed instead. You see, the Overseer, afraid that the Vault Dweller's time in the Wasteland would actually inspire rebellion because he hadn't really been holding the Vault together well at this point anyways, he exiled him. So he left, angry, heartbroken, and alone. He wandered the desert, but didn't go very far. Eventually, he found other Vault Dwellers who had also lost faith in Vault Tech. And together, they moved north, surviving, building, and forming something new, a tribe. Over the years, the Vault Dweller became a teacher, a leader, a protector. He raised a family and passed on everything he learned, from engineering to farming, survival, and even combat, so his people could thrive without the need for a vault ever again. The tribe would one day become Arroyo, and its future leader would be his grandchild, the chosen one of Fallout 2. With some bittersweet final words, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And while this was a good ending to one hell of a journey, everything would change with Fallout 3.
This is Three Dog. Bow wow, your voice in the darkness, or at least the radiation. News time, children. Not too long ago, I reported that a cat recently left Vault 101. His name is James. Good guy. Turns out it gets better. I got a new report here that says someone else has just climbed out of that hole. What the hell is going on down there? Revolution? Vacation? Somebody fart? Your guess is as good as mine, kids. Until next time, this is Three Dog. Ow! And you're listening to Galaxy News Radio, bringing you the truth, no matter how bad it hurts.
Oh man, starting to wonder whose show this really is. Now, Fallout 3 was huge to the franchise, more so because it was the first time Fallout left its 2D roots behind and stepped into full 3D. And for longtime fans, the shift was a big deal, because you were either all in on the hype for a new, lifelike, at least for the time, open world experience, or you were mad they didn't just make Fallout 2.5. But regardless of where you stood, Fallout 3 was an absolute monster success. In the first week alone, it shipped 4.7 million units across PC, Xbox 360, and PS3, generating over $300 million. And by 2015, it had sold 12.4 million copies worldwide. But it wasn't just the sales that made it legendary, it was the reception. Critics went nuts, with Metacritic scores hitting 91 on PC, 90 on PS3, and 93 on Xbox 360, a huge open-ended sandbox with immersive storytelling, haunting music, and that's a new targeting system that very quickly became iconic. And story-wise, honestly, it was pretty simple, but in a good way. You see, you're born in Vault 101, where the rule is clear. No one gets in and no one gets out, except for one person, your father. So you step out into the Capital Wasteland to find him, uncover what he's really been doing, and along the way, you see just how broken the world really is, and how people, no matter how much it falls apart, still try to find a way to move forward. It was wonderful. And just like Fallout 1, Fallout 3 also had some canonical information via Moira Brown and her terminal log. According to a 2297 log entry from Moira, the Lone Wanderer did help her complete the Wasteland Survival Guide, and his impact on the Capital Wasteland was huge. Everyone remembers him. Even if the stories get exaggerated from time to time, some call him a savior, others blame him for chaos, but one thing's clear: he changed everything. Just like the Wasteland heroes before him. But far across the Wasteland, way out west, Obsidian Entertainment dropped what may still be the best Fallout experience to date, Fallout New Vegas. And it released on October 19th from 2010. And at this point, Fallout was booming. A ridiculously huge modding scene was already in full swing due to Fallout 3. And with the reveal that ex-Black Isle developers were at the helm, New Vegas wasn't just releasing, it was essentially strutting down a red carpet. Screwing it up would have been almost impossible. And they didn't. They hit the ground sprinting. The story was surprisingly grounded and honestly ahead of its time. You play as the courier, some poor soul who gets caught by a slick-talking wannabe mobster named Benny over what just looks like a shiny poker chip.
The game was rigged from the start.
And that's the twist, though. You're not a vault dweller, you're not the chosen one, you're not some fresh-faced hero wandering into a broken world thinking it can be fixed. No, you knew this world was garbage from the very beginning. And honestly, that makes things even funnier. You were just a delivery guy. You were a mailman trying to do your job until Benny rolled up, shot you in the head, and told you that maybe you should have just stayed in bed that morning. Looking back though, what still blows my mind is that by the end of it all, I was running the Mojave with Mr. House at my side. Yes, I picked the correct ending. Complain about it. After defeating 2 entire armies and finding a man who, by all accounts, should be very, very dead after being thrown into the Grand Canyon on fire.
First, do not believe that because Daniel is a missionary, he is incapable of or unwilling to defend himself. Second, if you harm Daniel or any of the sorrows or dead horses, I will find you. Make no mistake. God willing, you will not leave this valley. Lastly, waging war against good people is bad for the soul. This may not seem important to you now, but it's the most important thing I've said.
I then proceeded to survive 6 different scientists who'd gone completely mad with their brains in jars, who instead of offering me a coffee, a bed, or maybe a shower, decide to rip my brain out of my skull, tear out my organs, treat me like a complete idiot, and then toss me into their crater to solve their problems. Afterwards, you discover a lost casino run by a man who really just can't accept he's a failure, so to prove he's actually worth a damn, he slaps a bomb collar on my neck and forces me to rob his casino that he found, because I guess doing it himself, which is just too much effort, and to really put the cherry on top, fighting another mailman who somehow blames everything in his life on me, even though I've never met him, and now he wants to nuke both the NCR and Caesar's Legion out of spite. And the wildest part, the only reason any of this happened is because one mailman had a very, very bad day. But jokes aside, this is exactly why Fallout New Vegas is still talked about today. It wasn't just hilarious chaos or absurd side quests. It was about genuine choices, deep storytelling, and consequences that you could actually feel. Because you see, every decision shaped the Mojave, made factions truly meaningful, and brought characters to life with complexity that stayed with me for a long time, even after I stopped playing the game. Because you see, in a franchise filled with radioactive monsters and mutants, the most compelling part of New Vegas was always its humanity. The idea that someone as ordinary as the courier, a mailman, could leave an extraordinary mark on the wasteland was incredible, and nothing showcased that impact better than the game itself. Because you see, at the end of every DLC and even the main storyline, my major decisions were played back to me, narrated in that iconic, gravelly voice. I never had to wonder my actions mattered. I saw exactly how my choices shaped the wasteland, affected factions, and changed countless lives for years to come. And in a game and even a genre where choice often feels like an illusion, New Vegas made it real. And that's why it stuck with me. It got to the point where even during other playthroughs, I would go back and make different choices just to get to the end again and see how my choices played out a second time through. New Vegas made it feel magical. It really made it feel like I have to think about what I do before I make a decision. It's just one of the reasons why I love it so much, and I think it stuck with the community for as long as it did. See, Fallout 4 is often cited as the point where many fans believe the franchise started having issues, and even though the game's still genuinely fun, I still play it from time to time, I have to agree, Fallout 4, despite all of its beauty, stumbled hard on the one crucial aspect that defined Fallout at its core: actions and consequences, cause and effect. Because you see, before Fallout 4 released, the series was riding high, the games were great, the fanbase was thriving, and a couple years after New Vegas, a YouTube channel called Shoddycast released an iconic series about Fallout starring the Storyteller, a Brotherhood of Steel member wandering the wasteland recounting stories from the places he visited. This character united the community in ways very few could, good, capturing what fans loved about Fallout, meaningful actions and real consequences, and not to mention compelling storytelling. You see, it gave newcomers a fun, accessible way to dive into Fallout's rich lore, and I mention this because even in his stories, right, everything is revolved around choice and impact. This is exactly where Fallout 4 kind of just dropped the ball, man. In Fallout 4, regardless of the actions you take, the story basically ends the same way. Now, I need to be careful here because yes, you do technically make choices, but their impact on the Commonwealth is shallow at best, right? You get the illusion of choice without the substance. Compare this to Fallout 3 or even New Vegas. Regardless of how you finish Fallout 4, you get nearly identical closing dialogue. Things have changed, life's different, war never changes, you get the point. Whether it's the Minutemen, Brotherhood of Steel, or the Railroad, they all give you essentially the same cookie-cutter ending, with only the Institute providing a few extra lines of dialogue. Contrast this to Fallout 3, or especially New Vegas. When those tales ended, you got to see how your choices changed the wasteland for years, good and bad. You learned if the boomers took to the skies, or how the Strip transformed under Mr. House's watch. You witnessed your decisions ripple through the world. But Fallout 4, it just ends. There's no reflection, there's no real consequence, it just stops. But beyond weaker storytelling and fewer consequences, Fallout 4 has some other really big issues that fans just weren't happy about. Take the dialogue system. It felt pretty shallow, often leaving you guessing what your character was actually going to say, and it also cut down a lot on the RPG mechanics fans loved, turning Fallout into more of a basic action shooter rather than the deep role-playing adventure people expected. Plus, the factions felt flat, lacking the moral complexity and depth that made Fallout New Vegas so great. For example, the Railroad. What was once a mysterious, almost assassin-esque like group, at least to me, right, fighting for freedom, they got reduced to we only care about synths, real humans be damned, which from a storytelling angle is way too black and white. And at that point, their cause either seems heroic and justified or pathetic and stupid. Like take Glory for example. She's a Gen 3 synth, right, arguably human enough that calling her a robot seems off. However, this clown also wants to liberate Gen 1 and Gen 2 synths. Like, no, I'm sorry, those are robots. Even Virgil in-game points out how ridiculous this is, saying that the Railroad would rather free vending machines than actually help the real people struggling in the wasteland. It makes the Railroad look like idiots. It's a drastic step backwards from their Fallout 3 counterparts, and that's just the Railroad. Let's switch gears and look at the Brotherhood of Steel. The Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4 was almost comically bad, at least to me, right? It honestly felt like Bethesda just needed another enemy besides the Institute, so they threw the Brotherhood under the bus. You're suddenly going up to settlements and saying stuff like grow our crops or die, which leaves you with just the Minutemen, supposedly the good guys, but they're bland and forgettable, more so when you go back to Preston and all you hear is,
"What can I say except
now the settlement needs our help. I'll mark it on your map."
It's no wonder Fallout 4 ended up with a lower Metacritic score than Fallout 3 or New Vegas. The whole game just felt lazy at times, right? And however, the only reason I still go back to it today is for the settlement building, which, while fun, was clunky at launch and it still has its share of jank even now. But despite its flaws, Fallout 4 did a lot of things right. The world design and atmosphere were top notch. You know, walking through downtown at night is genuinely scary sometimes. And it makes the Commonwealth feel alive and worth exploring, because you see, combat was smoother and more fun than ever, with great gameplay and a wide variety of enemies and gunplay. The weapons and armor customization was also deep and rewarding. It really felt like what you chose to put on your character mattered. And the settlement building, while it was clunky, it really was, it still is, it still gave players, though, a ton of creative freedom. Like, people were building entire mansions at these settlements, right? And companions like Nick Valentine and Hancock stood out with strong personalities, and the environmental storytelling through terminals and locations added layers of depth. It made it really, really nice for people who want to go out and find the story, you know, like me. And even if the RPG elements were weaker, Fallout 4 still delivered an immersive, action-packed experience that kept players coming back. But, you know, here's what's really special. Fallout 4 gives us a message, and honestly, it might be the best message in the entire series. Because you see, across every game, from the ruins of the Capital Wasteland to the dry deserts of the Mojave, one thing stays true, and that's that humanity always finds a way to survive. War never changes, but people do. The Vault Dwellers saved both their vault and their people from the super mutant threat. The Chosen One destroyed the Enclave's oil rig, saving their tribe and forcing the Enclave into hiding. The Lone Wanderer went from a humble vault dweller to the reason clean, purified drinking water could even flow through the Capital Wasteland to begin with. And the Courier, who was just a simple mailman, became the tipping point for the Battle of Hoover Dam. deciding the fate of the NCR, Mr. House, or Caesar's Legion. And finally, the sole survivor, the man out of time. The wasteland wasn't his home, it never was. But instead of failing, he adapted, manipulated, and survived, bringing down the most advanced faction the world has ever seen, the Institute. All of them were just people once, just trying to survive, one day at a time, but they all answered the call, and they changed everything. War never changes. But people? Well, look around you.